Morning, everyone. I'm going to be mentioning this for the rest of the week and a few more days after that. So 7 days, this time next week, we will have signed or be signing the Global Compact on Migration. December 10th, 11th is the signing ceremony in Marrakesh. And here's Maxime Bernier asking a question of the Liberal government, whether they intend to sign. And Max is very intelligent. He gets 2 questions for the price of 1 here. He's only allowed to ask questions because he's a single person in the House, right? He's independent. So there are rules governing how often he can ask questions. And he smartly maximizes his question period. It's question during question period here. So have a listen.
Member for both. The Prime Minister stated over the weekend that social impact studies have to be made when construction workers go and work in rural regions. And yet, the government is about to sign, with no debate, a UN treaty to normalize mass migration. The government has to preserve our sovereignty and not sign that agreement. Can the Prime Minister tell us why he is so worried about the social impact of Canadian workers compared to migrants from other countries? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, there have been unprecedented numbers of women and children who have been displaced throughout the world because of war and persecution.
Position on the Global Compact. This is the first time that the international community has worked together to develop a comprehensive set of principles to better manage this phenomenon. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives and the member opposite engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories while we work with the international community to protect our robust immigration system.
So that was the question and the answer. So the question was, how can you say that it's, you need a gender study when you bring construction workers to a rural area, but you're just fine with no debate, no study, no nothing to sign on to bring potentially ISIS fighters into Canada? And he says this is a rebel media conspiracy, says Mr. Hassan. And I think it's really funny hiding behind this rebel media conspiracy stuff, because it's very plain that it's not a conspiracy. Michelle Rempel yesterday, and I did a video on this yesterday, talks clearly about how this non-binding agreement can be used and cited by judges in Canada, de facto affecting Canadian immigration law when we signed this treaty, this compact on migration. I apologize, it's not a treaty. I guess it isn't a treaty, but it's an international agreement between multiple countries via the UN, right? But it's called the Global Compact on Migration, and he knows this. He's well aware of this. And he's also well aware of the costs and the failures of the Canadian program over the last couple of years. If you've been watching, look up, if you've been watching about France, look up what's happening with the yellow jackets or yellow vests protests. They're amping up. Mr. Marcon has backed down. He will not be enacting the January 1 diesel tax increases. I'll be interested to see if this tax protest continues, or if that's enough and the French will ease off, or if they're going to go and remove Mr. Marcon completely. Here's another Canadian story that, man, there are more questions than answers here, and CTV News is reporting about this, and I'm just going to show you a minute, but this is Mr. Grewal and his $1 million gambling addiction that was fully funded by friends and family, and he's totally paid back in the last couple of weeks. So those are all his statements. I have absolutely no idea how I could get my hands on $1 million, even if I asked like all of my friends. I don't think I could get $1 million. Maybe. I might be able to get $1 million, but if I gambled that away, I wouldn't be getting another $1 million. That's for sure. And if I'd gambled it all away, I'm not sure how I would have paid back those millions of dollars, or that $1 million that I could maybe get out of a friend of mine. I don't know how I'd pay that back in a couple of weeks with a gambling addiction. I'm not going to gamble right now, and I'm going to give you your money back tomorrow. Yeah, it's $1 million, man. Yeah, I'm definitely going to give it back to you tomorrow. Don't cash that check. Right? Here's CTV.
Addiction. Check it out.
I accumulated a personal debt in the millions of dollars. But like many addicts and people suffering from mental health issues, I started to personally borrow money solely from friends and family to continue to fuel the gambling.
But now questions about him are exploding. How did he pay back so much money in gambling loans so quickly? Was he abusing his position of power? Is he a security risk? Talk about that and the new numbers on the massive cost of irregular or illegal asylum seekers. We're joined by Liberal MP
So, and we're not going to go through this whole interview because while it is interesting and they do talk about lots of cogent stuff, we're going to keep moving on. I wanted to show you that in April we knew the majority of illegal migrants to Canada, and these are the people who are crossing illegally at Roxham Road. We already knew they were Nigerians with U.S. travel visas. So we are paying to put people in hotels who have the money and wherewithal to get a U.S. travel visa, buy a plane ticket from wherever they are, usually Nigeria, to fly to the United States, get a taxi, and use their wheelie luggage to walk across the border. Right? We understand and know, and it's very clear that our government has opened the borders and they don't care that these people don't qualify for any status whatsoever in Canada. Not refugee, not asylum, not nothing. They were not fleeing anything. They're just coming for handouts, right? And Mr. Hassan wants to open our borders entirely and will call you a conspiracy theorist if you ask him about it, despite the fact that the Conservative Party of Canada has said clearly that there is legal history to say that these non-binding compacts will be cited by Canadian judges, and Ms. Rempel in her post yesterday gave a few examples. And here Mr. Hassan is calling Max names, or a conspiracy theorist, for asking about the billions of dollars, the comparison to construction workers, and the potential security risks of bringing in all of these unchecked illegal migrants. Again, these people all know this. These people don't qualify. These people, the Liberal government, knows that these Nigerians do not qualify. They understand that, and they don't care. They're trying to export their awful, terrible open borders to anybody who signs on to the terrible global compact for migration. Do not be fooled. Anybody who's listening outside of Canada, nobody in Canada wants this to continue. The only person or people who want this to continue is Mr. Ahmed Hassan, the illegal Nigerians and other people taking advantage, and maybe Justin Trudeau. But I don't think that Justin Trudeau has the wherewithal to make that decision. I think he's worried about popcorn or hot dogs for lunch. So here's a PPC party update, and this is the People's Party newsletter. I got this on December 2nd, so I apologize it's a few days late, but it says, here's the latest news from the People's Party of Canada. EDAs established across the country. Pundits are saying it was impossible, but we're doing it. It's only been 2.5 months since our party was launched by Maxime Bernier on September 14th, but we've made tremendous progress since then. The People's Party now has almost 33,000 members, and about 260 interim Electoral District Associations, EDAs, have been established. 260. We expect to have all 338 EDAs set up in the coming weeks. If you are a member of an interim EDA board of directors, you should have received a memo explaining what can and needs to be done until the party and your EDA are officially registered by Election Canada. Among the priorities is selling more memberships to make sure that your EDA gets even bigger and stronger and can count on more volunteers to help you spread the PPC message until the elections next October. Leaders Tour. Maxime Bernier has been touring the country and holding rallies in different cities. He first went to Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Gatineau. This past week, he was in Winnipeg and Saskatoon. Hundreds of supporters went to each of these rallies to listen to his message about doing politics differently. And there's a bunch of links, and I'll copy this, and it will be on CanadaPoli.com. And speaking of CanadaPoli.com, that's my website. My branding is terrible. Thank you for letting me know. I do know that, and I'm working on it. I'm just one guy, so thank you for reaching out. And there's a lot of people who are being very nice, and I appreciate all the help. I really do. I'm just trying to have a conversation, and I'm hoping that other people will also want to have a conversation. And the conversation can have scary ideas and mean ideas and things that sound not nice. So long as we're all respectful about it, I don't care. So I have forums on my website, and please feel free to join in. Right now, it's just one main trunk forum, so everybody's kind of talking at the same time. And as we grow, if we grow, then I'll expand it. But link will be in the description, and I'm working on all of this stuff. So thanks for watching. Thanks for participating. I appreciate it. And finally, I wanted to revisit this $50 million that Justin Trudeau decided to give away of ours. And I wanted to point out that Trevor Noah's association here is with Agenda 2030. The Education Cannot Wait, the ECW, which is what Mr. Trudeau promised Trevor Noah $50 million for, is associated with the UN and Agenda 2030. So this is just more virtue signaling, yet more money down the drain to ensure that Canada has a continually growing population. And if you know what that means, well, I don't think we necessarily want that. And if we do want that, well, let's have a good conversation about the pros and cons of what happens if we do go down the path of a continually growing population. So again, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate you, dear viewer. Have a wonderful afternoon.